Sunday service on a roll. Sunday service on a roll. Sunday service on a roll.
At this point right now in my spirituality, just being straight up real, I don't see myself living without my kids, and I can't see myself leaving without my kids. That's where I'm at right now. And I know that I have that connection to them in that way from past life situations. So family and relationships, hence relationship alchemy, is so freaking important to me. Like I just feel this pull and this need to take care of them. Right. And to make sure that they're in the best place possible and have that psychic intuitive connection to them to where I automatically know when something is wrong, something is right. Okay, I need to look at this, I need to look at that. You just know it, you just have it. But Khadijah, I when I'm thinking about, because in spirituality, we always talk about reincarnation. We always talk about not wanting to return back to the earth realm, right? That's a major conversation that we have. But my kids right now, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to keep on doing my spiritual work and continue growing, continue evolving. But I have a hard time transforming my mind to not think about abandoning them in the transition, right? Even though I know we'll be able to help them on like if you make the transition, you can help your kids on the other side, you can all of that good stuff like that. I totally get that. But there is still something there that makes it so difficult to surrender to the fact that all of us must make the transition, and you have to separate from those that you love in the physical form.
Excellent.
Tell me about that, Khadijah. What do us people who love, what do we need to do to be able to accept the fact that in the physical realm, you will have to depart at some point in time?
Or they depart in some point in time for us, which is what you'll hear people always say. That's the biggest fear of a parent's,
right.
A child leaves before you. Well, being a woman that grew up with a grandmother that had to celebrate death, of course, my views are a little different. However, I fell back into that part of attachment. What we're talking about here is attachment.
Yes.
All we're talking about is it's time. It's just more stages and stages that we get into. You have to ask yourself the question, did I, and take little pieces at a time, because as a mother, we're making sure they don't hurt themselves when they're little. Make sure they don't bump their little knee, cut their little hand, burn themselves, those little simple things. Then they get to another stage of life. They're hanging out with friends, making sure they're not doing drugs, overdosing, hanging out where they shouldn't be, doing crimes, capers, all the shit that we each stage brings about another concern, right?
Yeah, don't even stop.
Yeah. So what happens is we are now beaming more fear. We are beaming more worry. We are beaming. So it is, and you said, D-Ray, is this a more, more in me that I have to get with spiritually? And the answer is definitely yes, because we have to know that everything that we are, you live every moment, every day as just as you would. No regrets, no, I should have did it this way, I should have did it that way. These attachments that we have are definitely purely, totally just physical, not understanding that these children came through us to only to achieve their purpose. They came through us to achieve what they came through, just like you did. So these connections we have, we love them unconditionally. We're there for them unconditionally. We teach them the best way we can. But the truest way of doing all of this, let me put it this way. When I grew up with a lot of women in my family, excuse me, a lot of women in my family, and growing up with a lot of women in the family, boys, it's something. And a lot of these women, like I was starting to explain earlier, y'all, a lot of women,
get into it.
They had a lot of bitter, they had a lot of anger, they had a lot of self-hatred, especially in my family. To be Black, to have kinky hair, to have all that, they had to hide it, put all those synthetics, which definitely is the biggest blocker of all. shameful, just a lot of stuff. And again, I'll call it blaming, because we have a lot of women today still do a lot of that blaming. And again, I will say it's one of the highest forms of blockages. So growing up with all of this, and now my mother was a nurturing mother, but yet she nurtured, but yet couldn't even say she loved me. So I'm stemming from this type of balance from 0 years to 9 years, they say, is our biggest programming, right? We are the sponge. That's the biggest programming. So in dealing with that and when I'm trying to find, in my search, I try to find a beautiful Black woman that can help me discover who we are. So when I'm going through this whole process, y'all, what I found was, after I stopped doing all the goddamn blaming, and went back to me. So when I was brought up by all that, I was more of a yang woman. The yin, the feminine. Yang, for those that don't know, is of course masculine energy. So I was more yang growing up in that type of, excuse me, household with a lot of women. With basically, we're talking about a lot of emotional traumas. We have a lot of emotions that have to be dealt with, mental sicknesses, emotional sicknesses, physical, spiritual, psychic sicknesses. This is what a lot of us actually grew up in. No fault of theirs, and at the time I was placing a lot of fault, because I'm like, I wish someone else would raise me, all that little tantrum, little bullshit. Mm-hmm. The more and more I started to find myself, y'all, and when I understood I was more yang, more masculine, I said, okay, let me understand, as I started to really get into this thing called a cult, that really, you're really tapping into more of your magic, which is to obtain, more harmony with your yin and your yang, your feminine and your masculine. So using both sides of your hemispheres, which would be the right brain with the feminine, the right brain, the left body, and the yang, we're talking about the left brain, right body. I started to learn how to balance more. We always hear people say, oh, I got to work on my equilibrium. I got to balance. So as I started to use my true magic, because now when we talk about magic, y'all, it's truly an inner occurrence. Mm-hmm. And this is what the problem is, the inner occurrence that people are afraid to tap into. But when we do, it's a beautiful thing, because the yin side, and Dream Wise just was talking about it, how intuitive his mother is, because you start to collect a lot of visions, intuitiveness. You start to feel the sensations that Dreamwise was also talking about, the premonitions. And hopefully with these premonitions, we're not afraid of what we see, and these different imaginations. So that's the feminine. And that's what a lot of people also come to me for reading. They want to open up that feminine side. Now, if you are more of a yin person and don't have the yang, which is you're more of a feminine and don't have the masculine, well, now we're talking about you're a very logical, reasoning, very factual type person, very strong will, at least hopefully. And you know how to maintain order very well. These are the things that we all must obtain. We have to use both sides equally and beautifully. And when we do this, family, you're now tapping into true states of alterness instead of just tapping into intelligence in the mind only. So now that you're using your will, you're using your wit, shaping your destinies, understanding the use of your subtle energies, the harmony with yourself, uniting back with your soul is what we're talking about. So let's talk about magic. If you are truly doing these things, your inner occurrence, what starts to happen is we go through the stages of, some people will call in the magic kingdom low magic. It's usually lower chakras, your lower 3 seals, which we're talking about the root, the chakral, the solar. So now you have people day to day, they're accomplishing things, easy tasks. They're career driven, skillful, artistic, and they're using a lot of their magic elemental. Now we start talking about getting to past the heart, which is where a lot of people are having troubles with, because there's so many blockages and fear of that love. So now we're talking about, you have mystical findings, your journey, you're very artistic in making massive amount of manifestations from that artistry, and you're more cosmic. It is these types of things that help you to find peace and enlightenment, so that you go beyond these attachments that we have. You start to have the understanding. You see your young daughter, that this is one that brought us such a big bond, Dreamwise and G-Ray, knowing your daughter was coming through. And all that she has brought, you start to really see everything beyond just loving them. And you see that when you leave, they'll be okay. When you see that, you know, if you go before them, they'll be okay. If they go before you, you'll be okay. Why will you be okay? Because it's all about the process of just loving and enjoying the time you have here. So we have to get beyond attachments. And if we're not beyond attachments and abandonment, that would mean we still have a lot of fear and a lot of programming, because this is not a world, y'all, where we were here to just have attachments to anything, which is what they consciously feed us every day through all these programmings, is to be attached and addicted to something. So if we are doing these things, whether it's through drugs, our children, through sex, through food, wherever these different distortions or unbalancings come from, then we can't get into true source of higher magic. Once you find that inner peace, you then see that you may mourn for a small period of time, but there's the understanding that they must go on. And how my grandmother taught us of the difference between a Christian's funeral, where they mourn, they freak out, they carry grief from now, and they even carry the grief to many several lifetimes. So what she taught us is that you have to understand they're either going home, what people call heaven, to a better place, creating their heaven, or they're going to come back and return to do another job that they requested themselves. So when we go out, and this is all Akashic understanding, there's many ways to get into enlightenment, but the biggest way I have found, and beautiful, of course, is through Akasha and through past life regressions and things of such. So once we start to see beyond the human shit, which is occulticism is supposed to do, beyond all illusions, then you can see everything right in front of you as clear as day, in a peaceful manner instead of such a fearful manner. And I hope, you know, that all makes sense.
That made
perfect sense.
a lot. The power. That's what this thing is. And if y'all don't know, Khadijah offers a chakra spinning class.
Yes,
Everybody needs to sign up for that. Everybody has to get rid of these human emotions so you can move past what Khadijah says, these attachments, right? So all our links will be in the description and all of that other good stuff. But that is powerful, Khadijah, because that is a big issue for people. This fear. This fear of, you know, losing a loved one and all of that other stuff, and you know, being in this world in a new vibration, if you will, right? Because now your senses kind of change, right? I just lost my aunt, and you know, my cousin, you know, is the vibration has to shift for him, you know, at a certain time to where he can move in his power once again. And you know, and yeah, it's a fearful thing, because you know, you like, shit, why am I still on this physical earth? Shit, I don't need to be here either.
But then like D-Ray said, but you think about your children. I finally got over that hump because I started doing it with my grandmother.